Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Phil at the Movies. I'm your host, Phil Walsh, and this is episode number 133 of this ongoing podcast that is always for the love of movies. And on that note of being for the love of movies and frankly for the love of this autumn and Halloween season, wanted to first start by setting the agenda or the carving the pumpkin, if you will, for the rest of the month. Because the first few weeks were Joker heavy, I'm going to be kind of playing catch up the next week with two shows for next week. So on Monday and Friday, it'll be kind of a double dose of Phil at the Movies. So if you haven't had your fill after this Friday, fear not. There will be a new show on Monday, and then of course next Friday as well. This is just a way for me to try to sort of cover all of the bases heading into the real final stretch of the Halloween season, and wanted to cover a number of newly released films, including Salem's Lot and Beetlejuice. So that will be on the agenda for Monday, and then next Friday will be a special Halloween-centric episode concentrating on the fifth installment in the beloved Halloween franchise, my personal favorite horror movie franchise. Halloween 5 turns 35 this year, and I will be covering that episode with a special guest, Anthony DiPuzzo, from the Never Split Up podcast. So that'll be on the agenda for next week. But talking about this week, and specifically a love of a movie, I have seen within the last week, and I kid you not, one of my favorite films of the year. The film is Strange Darling. It stars Willa Fitzgerald and Kyle Gallner. And to put it this way, because I don't want to go into spoilers, because this is a type of film where if I explain the twist, if I reveal the subversion of expectations, then I will be giving away the entire show. And this is a type of movie where you have to savor the experience. You have to watch it firsthand in order to sort of see where it goes, because the twists are immaculate, and it really does pull no punches and leaves you, as it did me, gobsmacked. So I'm going to try to walk a fine tightrope with this particular review and just sort of give a basic overview of the film. But I loved it. It's dark, it's ominous. There is a moody atmosphere to the film, as well as two sublime performances, particularly Willa Fitzgerald. And the premise of the film, I will just sort of read to you the synopsis, because I think that's probably the best way in order to sort of set the tone of the film. It takes place present day, and it's first up, it's told in a non-linear format. So we are introduced to scenes kind of out of order, and the story works backwards and then forward and then backwards again and then finally forward to complete the momentum. And it's really jarring in a very effective way. This movie would not land the way it does if this had been told in a traditional linear format. The way it sort of works, where it's told in 6 chapters, and we're introduced on chapter 3, then it goes backwards, and then it goes forward, then backwards, and then forward again. And it really kind of works with your mind in a way that kind of throws you off guard, because when one thing happens, you're sort of left scratching your head, and then sort of it explains itself a few chapters later. But I love it when a movie can sort of torture its audience in the best possible way and kind of bring you along for the ride. Now, as I said, the premise of this film really is intriguing, and I think anyone who is a fan of horror films, thrillers, suspense movies, this is going to be right up your alley. So this is the synopsis. Nothing is what it seems when a twisted one-night stand spirals into a serial killer's vicious murder spree. And that's it. That is the hook for the movie. That is the premise of it. We're sort of introduced at the start with almost a Texas Chainsaw Massacre inspired opening where they sort of present a dramatic exposition dump, and they sort of say this is the final known killings of the most prolific and unique serial killer in American history or in the 21st century. It's again really ominous and right in your face, and it sets the tone brilliantly for what is to follow. And again, that idea of most prolific and unique really does come into a unique repetition, so to speak, as the story unfolds. But it's such a brilliant thriller. It grabs you from the first frame. One thing that I found most appealing about this film, among so many things. I mean, one, the music is great. The soundtrack, the needle drops are on point. The use of the song "Love Hurts" really has a nice recurring theme throughout the movie. And again, some of those lines, which if you know the song, they hit right at the perfect spot. And just sort of thinking about them, love hurts, love scars. That really drives home the point that this movie is making. And it's twisted not in like a, oh my god, a gross out horror movie way. It's twisted in the way that it subverts our expectations with the characters and really does create a compelling drama where you're sort of left wondering, okay, what exactly is happening? Who is who here? And how is it going to sort itself out? And the cinematography of the film, I have to say, is another major point that this movie gets. Again, it's one of these films where it sort of sneaks up on you. I went into this movie sort of blind and did not know what to expect. But right off the bat, we're sort of introduced to it being shot in 35 millimeter. Which again, if you're a film buff, that's again sort of fun little knowledge to pass around at cocktail parties. But the film really has a grainy quality to it, which I appreciate. Again, feels very 70s or early 80s in a way, very very kind of rough and gritty, and it sort of fits with the tone of the film, which there is sort of a, I wouldn't call it a film noir aspect because it's definitely far enough removed from that subgenre, but there is sort of an element with the way the characters work. We're not treated to a lot of exposition. We're sort of presented as things are in that moment, and I think that's really a compelling way to take a story like this. We don't need to know too much backstory. We're just there for this ride, and the film is like a roller coaster. It's a slow burn, but not in a dull or an agonizing way. It sort of sets the stage with just enough sort of notice and intrigue, and then just goes pedal to the metal. And I mean, by the end of it, you are gobsmacked. You are absolutely gobsmacked by the end of the film. It's shocking. It's brilliant. It's moody. There's also a sexy quality to it, if I could say it like that. Just in the way that it is shot. Again, this is a hat tip to the director, J.T. Mullner, who clearly knew what he was going for with sort of the 70s aesthetic and vibe. But even just in the way the characters interact, and again, particularly the performance of Willa Fitzgerald, who she is only credited as the lady. Kyle Gallner is credited as the demon. So again, it's not really, we don't need to know their names. That's irrelevant. They're playing in a way, parts, so to speak, and everybody has their role to play in this story. But Fitzgerald is absolutely sublime in the film. She captivates every scene that she's in. I found myself both sort of in awe at the same time just sort of totally caught off guard by her performance. It really is one of the year's best, and this is a film I have to say, do not sleep on it, and do not read too much into it, because as I said, the twist and the surprises that unfold really make it worth your while. And I was glad that I sort of secluded myself from any sort of spoilers or even full on reviews. I knew it was a film about a serial killer and a one night stand gone wrong, and that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know, because that sets the stage so perfectly, because you're going to be taken on a ride that is just it's given the subject matter and kind of like how dark this film gets at points, it's one of those movies where it's such a thrilling ride and sort of an experience to watch the movie because, again, the twist and the turns just sort of play out rather brilliantly. So by the end, you're just, again, you're taking it all in, you're piecing all the puzzles together, and it's like, voila, there it all is, and it's like, oh my God, what has just happened? It really is one of those movies that it arrests you from the first scene to the very last. And again, I know I'm sort of being purposely vague here, but I don't want to spoil this film if you have not seen it, because again, for anyone that has, I've yet to hear a negative reaction to the film. It seems to just be what people are looking for. And, for me, this film just was right up my alley. You've got the horror element, you've got the suspense, you've got the sort of cinematic language with the use of the camera and the way the images work and the 35 millimeter shooting it. Like, it just, all of that adds just so much appreciation. And then you have phenomenal performances, which again, it's just, it hooks you. It hooks you in the best way a thriller can. And I can't wait to go back and rewatch it and sort of see it now that I know the entire experience. And again, I'm recommending this to everybody left and right. I think this is a movie everybody should see. It is one of, I think, already one of the best films of the year. And for me personally, I mean, this is easily one of my favorite films of the year, and I'm sure I'm going to be talking about it again as we wind down in December. And maybe then I'll do a full-on spoiler discussion about it, because this is a film that really, once you see it, you want to talk about it, and just sort of the way it sneaks up on you, and it delivers those punches and twists at the most exquisite and sort of delectable moment, and also the most shocking as well. It's a movie that does not hold back, and it delivers on its very compelling premise: a one-night stand gone horribly wrong involving a serial killer. What a perfect setup! What a perfect delivery. And Strange Darling is no stranger. It is no strange outing, though. You might make the case that maybe it definitely veers into that territory, but no, not at all. This film is a marvel, and one that I highly recommend. And if you have seen it, let me know in the comments. What did you think? What did you think of the twist? Did this film deliver for you? Because again, knowing nothing going into it, I was totally surprised and delighted by the entire film. Again, it's shocking. It's meant to be shocking and sort of hitting you in the face with sort of one event after the other, but watching it all come together in this sort of a brilliant jigsaw puzzle, again, 4 stars, absolute magnificent film. And again, one of those surprises that I don't know if it's quite sort of hit on all the levels for people, because it didn't have necessarily a wide enough theatrical release, but I can easily see this film getting finding an even bigger audience once it hits streaming and home video and whatnot, because this is certainly a film that people would be talking about. And again, I'm talking about it right here, and I'm doing my best to sort of hold back the spoilers. But again, just a film that, if you're looking for the perfect suspense twist and the perfect thriller, I don't think you're going to find anything better than Strange Darling this year. Again, if there is one, let me know. But for me, this one takes the prize, and it was definitely something that I was very delighted to experience and find, because again, I'm always intrigued by, as you know, this genre. Anything with horror, thrillers, it's going to be right up my alley, and Strange Darling just checked all of those boxes. But again, not only is it a captivating story, the performances are top notch. And again, major shout out to Will Fitzgerald. She really she's an underrated actress. I must say. And I know that sort of feels like an awkward term because like so and so is underrated, so and so's this or that. But she's someone who always turns in an incredible performance and an engrossing performance. And this is again another example of her talent. So certainly check out this film as well as her filmography because she really never fails to deliver and is always choosing roles which are unique and sort of unexpected in a way. And this is, again, another perfect case to showcase her talents. But Strange Darling, this was really the surprise hit for me. I love these kind of films, but I did not expect it to deliver in the way that it did. So I'm curious to know your thoughts. If you have seen it, let me know in the comments below. But that does it for my spoiler-free review of Strange Darling. More on it in a few weeks or months' time, I promise you that. But that, of course, does it for me today. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Again, I'll be back on Monday for a kickoff to the real on-start of spooky season. Strange Darling was really the teaser today. The appetizer, the main course will be next week with a lot of horror films and spooky movies to talk about on the show. But that does it for today, everybody. Have a great weekend. Go check out some movies, and we'll do this all over again on Monday for the love of movies.